So what we did is we used a large data set to examine what kinds of instructional practices might teachers use in their classrooms to help first grade children learn mathematics. And when we looked at the types of practices that teachers used in their classrooms, it grouped in a couple of different ways, one of which we termed teacher-directed instruction. So these are things like using textbooks or worksheets, giving students lots of opportunities to practice the skills that are being modeled by the teacher, more explicit type of instruction. Another type of instructional grouping was what we and others have characterized as student-centered instruction. So these are things like having students work in groups to practice mathematics, working on problems with several different kinds of solutions, peer tutoring, trying to work on mathematical activities with real-life applications, more meaningful type of activities. What we then did is examine if these kinds of practices were related to achievement gains in mathematics by first grade students, looking at different groups of students, some with prior histories of learning difficulties in mathematics and some that didn't display those prior learning difficulties. And what we found is that student-centered or teacher-directed kinds of instructional activities worked about equally well for first grade students who didn't have a prior history of learning difficulties in mathematics. Students who had come into first grade classrooms struggling with mathematics, either repeatedly or intermittently, those students really didn't seem to benefit from student-centered instruction that the first grade teachers were offering, but instead those students seemed to benefit more from teacher-directed instruction. We took into account prior achievement in mathematics and reading by the students. We accounted for family SES and other factors that might help explain variation in students' achievement gains. And what we found is, despite control for those other confounding factors, that instructional practices used by first grade teachers uniquely predicted achievement gains by their students. So that's good news. That means that teachers have a tool to help facilitate greater learning gains by students. We did find, and this was somewhat surprising in our results, that as the percentage of students in the first grade classroom with math difficulties increased, teachers tended to increase their use of what we found not to be effective kinds of instructional approaches. Things like using movement or music to teach mathematics, or increased use of manipulatives or calculators. These kinds of approaches didn't seem to be effective, at least in terms of our analyses. Our findings matter because I think they provide teachers with some indication of what works, what might be helpful in terms of their instructional decision-making and what they provide to students in their first grade classrooms. Our analyses provide some indication that what teachers decide to do in their classrooms in terms of instruction seems to matter for learning gains, achievement gains by students.